many of us, one of the most hurting aspects of the narrative self is, as I said, this I'm not good enough. So the team of judges, this complaining, criticizing, nagging voice, which is judging and complaining about yourself mainly, but then also about others. So this is probably for many of us one of the main sources for unnecessary suffering, unnecessary pain. It's like a parasite which is very spread in the West, and it locks itself into the selfing process. So not only this is going on, you think it's true. So there's an identification with I'm not good enough, and it's not seen that this is a story. It's a judgment. And so very important placebo I often share with people, so like dreaming ourselves into a better dream is practices of self-compassion and self-acceptance and stuff like that, just to give some relief. It's a provisional relief, but it can be a game changer in your life. So what I would like to do in this meditation is to kind of just make us aware of particular the I'm not good enough self. Well, it could have a different name for you, like the I'm not lovable as I am self, or the I'm not worthy self, or I'm a horrible person because I did this and this and this and this, and this proves that I'm a horrible person. Or if other people would know what's happening in my inner life, they would run out screaming. And it's a harsh voice. And it could be even a few voices. So not only one. It could be a whole team. So, and it does not help much to argue with it, kind of to find a solution in the rational soul. But what is necessary for seeing that you are not bad is actually to see it. To feel it, so that you know that you are not that. And this can be such a big step if you start to questioning the stories around I'm not good enough. If you just start to question them, is this really true? Is this really true? And how do I feel when I think this? How does it make me feel to say it like as a mantra? So this parasite was planted into you not because it's your fault. It's in your. It's like inherited karma, family trauma. Also, your parents were affected by that parasite, and they passed it on to you. So recognizing that and responding to that with as much as, like seeing it with as much as compassion as possible. And if you can't bring up that compassion, look at it from the Dalai Lama's eyes, from Jesus' eyes, from your therapist's eyes. Yeah, so you borrow the eyes of the Dalai Lama, which is the loving gaze, which is warmth and kindness and compassion. So let's sit quietly. And if you don't, if you can't, recognize it, or so there's nothing so much happening in your body, so don't worry. It's fine. It's just a gentle exploration. So take a bit of time to shift again into the body and bringing your inner life to the foreground, possibly supported by the flow of the in and out breath. But try not to meditate on the breath. Yeah? So just lightly resting your attention in the flow of the out, and like 20% or something like that. And notice the inner weather. How do you feel now? What's happening for you now after the break? Where do the energies want to flow? Is the stream of thinking rather agitated or more agitated than in the beginning of the evening? So you just notice what is happening. In the same way you notice the sounds outside. So in the same way, the whole thing. You become aware of the whole thing. Including grasping, including resistance. And it could be possible quite quickly for you to already have a sense of spaciousness, a sense of a stillness, at least like a faint glimmer at the edges, in the background. The sense of vastness reveals itself, the spacious aliveness of this moment. Unhooking from thinking, so you try to rely less on thinking and you rely more on doing nothing and knowing nothing. Notice the cocoon, like the sense to be the body, for example. But then also notice that there's something bigger than all of that, deeper. Like the sky. Sitting as the heart, like the sky. And stay here with us. So, and then I invite you to get a sense of the I am not good enough I. I'm unlovable I need to work harder I need to fit in I'm strange I'm different than others and I'm broken the I am broken I'm traumatized So this loop, you might even hear some harsh voice there, or the way you talk with yourself sometimes. Like, shit, I said so. This was stupid. And again, you did it again. Things like that. So, and then just intuitively feel where it sits in your body. And this could be a kind of a localized place, or it could be kind of heaviness or darkness throughout the whole body. So it can be in different places. So you don't try too much to localize it. Just when I ask the question, so where does it sit in the body, this parasite? Where does it live in the body? It could be also that you rather perceive it as this mental loop, yeah? But there's probably also a contraction, a heaviness, a numbness, a freeze in the body. And just notice that parasite, that ghost. So now, when you look at it, either on the pure conceptual level, possibly you can identify a bit the somatic aspect. So when you look at it, you are aware of it, you feel it. Doesn't that imply that what is looking at it is bigger? That which is looking at it is containing it. You know, that which can touch or breathe into it or listen to it, to that parasite, isn't that bigger? So that which is bigger, from where's that looking? From where's that looking? So just allow yourself to have a sense that there is something bigger than the I am not good enough I. You kind of step out of that river and you look at it. You look at the flow of this loop. I am not good enough. So that which is aware of I'm not good enough is not judging. embraces, it loves the I am not good enough I. And if it's a bit difficult to look at the I am not good enough I with kindness, borrow the eyes of the Dalai Lama, borrow the eyes and the hands of Jesus. Breathing into I'm not good enough and the somatic aspect, like Tara wood, the goddess wood, like the great mother wood. Take it into your arms. It's not your fault. It was placed into the stream, and then you made the mistake of identifying with it, believing in it. It's not even an enemy. It's just something within you which needs your love. Which wants to be seen. See if you can make that space from where you look bigger. Like you include the people around you, the room. And instead of calling it my parasite, my ghost, we could try what happens when we say our, so that we breathe together into that which so desperately needs to be loved. So we breathe together into the pain of I am not good enough. There's something wrong with me. It's in all the people here, I can assure you. Allow yourself to find a deeper trust into that which is already whole. That which is in the nature of unconditioned love. Make yourself bigger. It's just such a tiny thing. It's just words. It has no power if you don't feed it. It's not who you are. And you never wear that. try to argue with it. Just love it. Love it to death. And rely on stillness. What is helpful, that you don't create a relationship with that part of you which is based on hatred, or which is based on shame, or based on kind of trying to fight it. So one insight can help with that. When now I said it was a parasite, which your parents put, and not only your parents, but put into your stream. But it can be also seen as a protective move. So at one point, the little boy or the little girl, in order to survive, came up with something like that as protection. So the cocoon has also that. So the development of the cocoon does not happen from a negative intention. It's like your psyche developing something to protect you and make survival possible, the survival of this vulnerable little girl and this beautiful little boy. So it's actually, it's kind of an ally, but it is outdated. And you need to give it another job. And then the energy in that becomes available as vitality for that which wants to reveal itself through you. So that kind of the psychic energy which is locked into, some people call that the ego. Yeah, I don't like it so much because it sounds as if there is something which we need to do something with it. There is nothing there. And actually anything doing, like overcoming the ego or something, strengthens the ego. So that process, or what I want to say, I found it helpful, very helpful for me to have a relationship to the different aspects of myself as potential allies. And that they were installed in the first place out of a good intention, out of a protective intention. This is a game changer, what I just said. Mm-hmm. Because then instead of looking at the aspects of yourself which you're ashamed of, or which you want to get rid of, which you want to train and discipline, you just love them and you give them space and you see them and you say thank you. Is there something else you could do? Like all this energy you use now for criticizing me and punishing me and being hard with me, this is such a beautiful life's energy. Can't you contribute with something else, or you can think together with that part. So, what are your skills? I mean, definitely you have like some discrimination, and you have some force. I mean, you never give up. You know, can't we bring this never to give up into something else? So, are there any questions, comments on all levels? Yes.
When you talk about all these things inside, bad things, anger or fear or something, as if it is, something that is there always. I don't understand, because those feelings or emotion happens in interaction, and then we cannot say, is it mine or is it the other person's, or is it, if you're empathic, you often carry, are colored by other people's mood and so on, and you don't know what is me and what is the other, so I find it's very difficult. Actually, it is making up problem that shouldn't be there, because we see it's the interaction. Everything is, we are interbeing and we are interacting and creating something that has nothing to do with me or the other person, but is the dance between everything and everyone. So we are not containing these issues. That's what I feel or have come to.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And still, a good response to that is love.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But not always. In situation we can feel that other people are not loving towards us, and then we
Yeah,
get hurt
a
or
good
angry.
response to that is love.
Yeah, of course. I know.
So love now as the mystery, not so the love which we don't know what it is, not like love, love, romantic love or heartwarming love or something, but love as a mystery. So any questions? Rebellious thoughts? Does your selfing process need something? Does wholeness need something? Yes.
I was wondering, does grief have any place in this? I was thinking when you said love, that's always the first thing in grief, because it makes loss possible.
Yeah, so when I say love now, that is not that kind of love which is the twin of grief. So the love, what we usually say, no, that's the love which always comes with grief also, because we love and we lose what we love. So love and grief are twins, they always come together. You can't have love without grief, that kind of love. So grief is the same. Is a feeling which comes and goes, and
it also comes in the loop.
It can come into the loop, but also in the dissolving of, or when you start to disidentify a bit with the loop, and you discover that which is bigger, then there could be grief coming up, which could be unfelt grief, which is still sitting somewhere, which could be, but also the grief of letting go of some of the habits and friends who are connected with the loop. It's like a letting go, and there can be grief or fear. I mean, very common response to losing the softening the identification with the loop is fear. But it could be also grief. Grief is actually really nice. I mean, fear really... No, when you are in it. When you are really in it. So it becomes difficult when you try to manage it, and you try to... Then it becomes really unpleasant. But the expression of grief, it's like life, it moves, I mean, freeze, that really sucks. But, grief is... And the tears and all that is, so it's so relieving if you allow yourself to let the energy flow. And then one could, of course, when we talk about grief now, we are completely in the conceptual rational zone. We talk on the storytelling level. Yeah. So if that would kind of soften, would kind of dissolve for a moment, then it's just chi or prana moving through, and it doesn't mean anything. And that which is aware, so fundamental well-being is never afraid, or is never in grief, because it does not lose anything. It does not need anything, it does not lose anything. It's always whole, it's always complete. Yes.
I was wondering when you talked about spiritual bypassing,
Mm.
how would I recognize the difference between really being completely aware or at peace in that moment, or just my ego feeling good because of the nice words?
Yeah. This is it's complex. One thing is it could be good to kind of read a bit on it, like this. I think so. There's some books around spiritual bypassing. One very good book is from Robertus Augustus Masters. Is his name. He wrote a book called Spiritual Bypassing, and also actually Rob Priest, who will come next week on Thursday. I wanted to mention that anyway. He also in his book refers to spiritual bypassing. So that is like one way to just read what kind of tendencies we have, and then that can help you to recognize it. Yeah. And then it's good to be around people who really who know you intimately. So I mean, people who recognize that you are just a bullshit talker, parrot non-dual awakened person. Yeah? So that's very good if people are like this. Around that, who give you that kind of feedback. And then is just a curiosity. I mean, be explorer of your psyche. So stop to be a seeker, but continue to be an explorer. So seeking disappears, but you continue to explore, and you become curious. And then there's particular practices for shadow, dream work. So there's some practices to become more aware of the shadow, that what you don't want to see. Then there's also the information you get through becoming curious about what triggers you in other people, because that's very likely has to do with something you don't want to see in yourself. And then you have that kind of information. And then have a spiritual practice which is like multi-level, so it includes the body, it includes a curiosity into your psychological history, it includes meditation, it includes shadow work. And then, I mean, in the end there is no escape. So that what you try to bypass will come out. If there's an unfelt grief in you, it's going to come out at one point. I mean, you can try to be drunk for 20 years or, trying to meditate you out of it. But it's going to come in terms of symptoms, sicknesses, in nightmares, and for sure it will come at the time of death. It will be there. Then you know, oh, so this time around I did a lot of spiritual bypassing. I better do differently. And then, what I don't want to trigger with when I talk about spiritual bypassing, and this is just a story. Actually we don't know what we're talking about. But let's continue. Yeah? I just wanted to have a little break here, as you know. So never confusing talking like this as something which exists. Yeah. We have really no clue what I'm talking about. There's nothing there. So what I don't want to trigger is this kind of questioning, unhealthy doubt. Or am I doing spiritual bypassing? Is this genuine? Is this awakening? Is this good enough? Yeah, so then forget spiritual bypassing. So if the teaching on spiritual bypassing is not fun, yeah, and wow, yeah, there's something to explore, let's look at this. And a habit of doing exploration with a loving gaze, then just drop this complicated bypassing teaching, yeah? Because the loop will use anything to feel more contracted. Even this now about spiritual bypassing. So if there's doubts, like, oh, is this genuine? Is this now the peace? Yes, it is. It is. Trust. If it isn't, things will come up. So you feel, wow, I'm really awakened, and then you miss a plane, and you get a panic attack, and then you realize, oh shit, there goes my awakening. I just wrote this book, just made this Facebook post about awakening, and here I am, I'm freaking out, and it feels like dying because I miss my plane. So there's room for expansion there in my awakening. And life will do that. Life will, somehow it's amazing. It's just the right people and the right problems will turn up in your life to point to, hey, come on, yeah. There's room for healing here. Yeah? But then if there's an experience of peace, because that peace can break into your life at any time, and it does, fortunately, otherwise we would all be in the madhouse. So we have these moments where at least the cocoon is a bit more open, a bit more connected. So then you just soak it in, It's like just soak it in, enjoy it. Yeah, it's awakening, it's happening. Awakening is happening. It is, I'm sure. Okay, so I already mentioned Rob Priest now, so he is a teacher I can really recommend. And he has been coming since a few years now. A psychotherapist, Jungian psychotherapist, but a student of Tibetan Buddhist Tantra since 40 years. And so he knows exactly this topic, because he has been working with Buddhist practitioners who make their life more difficult through being a Buddhist practitioner, which unfortunately happens most of the time. So he knows about this problem of how can we bring the Tibetan Buddhist teachings into our screwed up psyche. without making it worse, but actually benefiting from them. And that's what they are meant to. So they are meant to bring relief and freedom and fun and love into our life, not the opposite. So he will give a public talk next Thursday. And it's really good to come. And then there will be a weekend, and it will start a new cycle of his kind of practice study program, exploring Buddhist Tantra.
Here?
It's here, yes. Is the weekend also here?
I have to check. It's on our Facebook
Yeah,
page.
so
The weekend is in Central Copenhagen, Allergeld.
Okay. Yeah, so you can find it on the Facebook site. And then I just mentioned that, I don't know if I'm supposed to mention that, but we are, this group, Center for Wisdom Malfusel, we can't use this room next year, so they are looking for a room, possibly to rent, for complete, but also maybe some provisional solutions. So if you know about something or think about something, if you know another group who is also like a Buddhist group or like a yoga group or something who look for something, maybe people can come together and rent something together or something like that. So if you hear about something or you know a place which can be rented, either short term or long term, then you can
get in touch. Or if you own real estate and you would like to.
Yes. Sometimes that's possible.
Yeah.
It's not completely out of to say something like this, because who knows who is here. Okay, so thank you very much. See you in 2 weeks, and go to Reprise.